So I've got a series right now that's called Saints and Outlaws. It's a faith-based Western.
This is Truly Independent, a show that demystifies the indie film journey by documenting the process of releasing independent films in theaters. Each week, Garrett, Batty, and I, Darren Smith, will update you on our journey, bringing guests to share their insights into the process and answer your questions. Garrett, how's it going, man?
Hey, good. Good to see you. You are not in your regular location. What's going on?
No, I planted some plants and I put some bookshelves up. No, I'm actually in Boise, Idaho. I have a friend up here named Nathan Barry who runs a company called Kit. They do email service. They're an email service provider. That's who I use. That's who you use. It's like how if I talk to anybody about email, I say you got to use Kit for your email marketing. And Nathan invited me up to be on his podcast later today. So I'm doing ours now at 11. And then at 3:00, I'm going to be on Nathan's show. Obviously, we'll talk about our podcast a little bit, but it's going to be a fun episode. So they have a cool Kit Studios, and they have like 4 or 5 rooms here in downtown Boise that they just let people use. If you're a certain tier of their platform, you can just come in and rent it for free. So I've been here for an hour recording stuff. And anyway, it's fun. Yes, I'm in Boise at a different place.
Well, it looks nice. It looks great.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm a fan of Kit. In fact, I just sent out an email blast yesterday promoting our podcast. So it's a good service. Well, good. I'm glad it worked out for you to tune in. We're recording a little bit later. I just got back from the doctor, just the annual checkup. Everything's good, but it's going to lead me into kind of what our topic might be that we talk about today.
Nice.
Yeah.
We
So
should
I
get
guess we'll just jump right in, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So we wanted to talk about just kind of a status update on everything. We have been so this season, you and I have been talking extensively about like kind of the development process, and pitching, raising money. What do we do? How this ties into the doctor's appointment is in the casual, the bedside manner, small talk. It's like, oh, what do you do? Or what's on the rest of your docket for today? I say, oh, just go back to work. What do you do? Oh, I'm a filmmaker. And a couple of people that I was speaking with there just kind of were kindly curious. Oh, well, what does that mean? Was that, in their minds, they're like, oh, you're probably on set somewhere. Where you're filming? And it occurred to me that what we do on our day to day is probably very not the ideal, not the picture, not what people immediately picture when you say I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah, no, it's good. We haven't done as much real-time documenting of the process as we did in season 1. So this is a good episode to check in and see how's it going. Like you're actively pitching and putting projects in front of people. I'm raising a film fund. And so I know, at least for myself, I often get kind of taken aback when people go, you've got it all figured out and it must be easy for you. And you're this certain level of producer. I'm just like, I think you're mistaken. I don't think you understand. It's hard for everybody. It's not only hard when you're starting out. Just last week, I read an article about how Michael Bay is doing a indie documentary at South by because nobody would fund it, and he's having a hard time. And he was commiserating with James Cameron about the state of the industry and how hard it is to get stuff greenlit. It's like, okay, if you're Michael Bay and James Cameron and you're having the same conversation that you and I are having right now, it means that everybody has the same problem. Okay.
Yeah, it's really it's good to put that in perspective. We watched the Oscars last week, and the Academy Award winning speech was about independent film and talking about how they raised $6 million to make their movie. And I was listening to the Director's Cut, which is a podcast where they interview different directors, and these were all the nominated directors. Maybe this was the DGA podcast. Anyway, all of the nominated directors were being interviewed. They were kind of a roundtable setting, and the interviewer said, "What do you do? Kind of what do you do the day before the shoot? What do you like? Every day you're in production. what are you doing that night? And
Mm.
the one director said, I'm probably trying to close financing. And and the others laugh like, yes, that's so relatable. We can all experience that. And it's just kind of this the realization that it is a never ending slog of not directing.
Yeah.
uh,
So it's interesting. We're both kind of in that mode. So I can share a little bit about how things have maybe evolved over the last 3-4 months that I have been actively raising. I started with where we all start, which is my personal network. Like, who do I already know that has money, has invested in films, is interested in films, has had conversations with me about financing movies in the past? Like, I start there. And I think that's where everybody starts. And it quickly became apparent how small a network I have when it comes to financing big projects. And so that really set me on a course of, okay, simultaneous to pitching every day and having conversations where I'm talking about what I'm doing, I also need to be building and expanding that network. And so a lot of my day to day has become, how do I find another 25 people that might be interested? Because it's really hard to know they are definitely interested. So I'm casting a wide net and hoping I catch 1 or 2 fish every day. And if I reach out to 20 to 25, I know that 5 to 10 will kind of reply, whether it's a LinkedIn connection request or an email or a recommendation from someone else. I know that I can, if I put out the effort of 20 to 25 outreach, I'm going to get back 5 to 10, and maybe one of those in 6 weeks will turn into an investor. And so, it's impossible to do that every day. Like yesterday, I was driving to Boise for 5 hours. I
yeah.
didn't do my outreach yesterday. Today, I've been in the studio all day. I'm not doing outreach today. So it's not something that happens every day. And the real evolution over the 3-4 months has been who I'm contacting, because it was really easy to find angel investors, people that can write $10,000 to $50,000 checks into things. And I put an event together that we talked about on the show. I've done a lot of outreach. I've done a lot of referrals and people, who should I talk to? And I've had a lot of conversations with people that could potentially write $10,000 to $50,000 checks. And I have half a dozen of them who have done that and committed money into the fund. Now, the realization about a month ago was, okay, I could keep doing this. And if I raised $10,000 to $50,000 a week, it would take like 200 to 1,000 weeks or whatever the math is to raise $10 million. And I'm like, I don't have that kind of time because, as everybody knows, fundraising doesn't pay very well. And so the pivot or the choice that I had to make was, okay, do I keep going or do I have to change the approach? And the answer was, yeah, I absolutely, obviously have to change the approach. And the shift or the pivot was, I need to be exclusively talking to people that could write $500,000 to $2.5 million checks. That's it. Because I'm raising a $10 million fund. I need to raise it from 10 to 20 investors, not 200. And so it's like, okay, well, how am I going to find those people? And then it became, all right, part of my week needs to be finding who are the people I should talk to. Then part of the week is reaching out to them. And then part of the week is pitching them and being on conversations and phone calls with them. So the pace has slowed quite a bit, but it's pretty amazing when you can get on a call with someone who could write a 7-figure check. It's a very different conversation than someone who is looking at putting in $10,000. The $10,000 investor, $25,000 investor is very concerned about how they're going to get their money back, from my experience. The 2 or 3 conversations I've had with people that have historically written 7-figure checks into whether it's film projects or other investments, they just say, I really like what you're doing. If I could, I would right now, but I'm tapped out. Or
Yeah.
I'm very interested. Let me talk to my guy. And they just kind of make a decision in the moment, because $1 million to a centimillionaire or a billionaire is not that hard a decision to make. And so the conversations are easier, but the connecting with them initially is way harder. And the idea of a cold DM on LinkedIn is not going to fly. They get 1 billion of those every week. So you're just another one of those. So it's really about finding, okay, here's an individual that I want to have a conversation with. Who do I know that knows them? And how do I get them to say, you should talk to Darren? That's the whole play at this point. And it's working a lot slower than before, but because of the size of the checks, I don't need it to be a single investor every single day that's committing. I need 10 of them over the next
Yeah.
month or two. So a big shift in the approach and the mindset, and I've really had to step into this place of I can do this, and I have something valuable, and I have results already that speak for themselves. I know the pitch works. I know the structure is right. It's just about doing the work every day.
Where are you? I would imagine that takes a toll on you mentally. You go like, yeah, is this going to work? Where are you on that? Like, how do you wake up and go, okay, we're going to climb this mountain again?
Yeah. I tell myself if I have 2 good days a week, then I'm succeeding. Like that's a successful week. And
What is a
it's
good day then? What is it? What do you mean a
a
good
good
day?
day is I woke up, I did my morning routine, I ate healthy food, I didn't get on social media first thing. I sat down, I made a plan for the day, I did the plan, like I blocked out time for the different tasks and activities that I want to be doing. I did those things, and by the end of the day, whether or not calls or money came in, I know that the output is exactly what I wanted to be doing that day. And
Okay.
so if I can get 2 of those days in a week where I can put like 4 hours into this work of outreach and finding people and connecting with people, that's a massive success. If I get 2 in a week, 2 days in a week. Now, if that means the 2 of the other 3 days are mediocre days where I do a little bit of this, but I'm also getting distracted and having other things that I have to do, whether it's taxes right now or finances or running kids to and from practices or whatever it is, like a dentist appointment that's in the middle of the day, which is going to interrupt my entire day. Okay, well, then I get to be in dad mode instead of business mode. That's fine. If
Yeah.
I have 2 of those kind of middle days or okay days, great. And I expect to have one kind of crappy day every week, which is like I feel unmotivated. I feel sluggish and sloppy. I feel like, why would anyone want to talk to me? This is insane. Why am I doing that? Like there's
Yeah.
one of those days, maybe 2 every week, every
Yeah.
single week. And so it means that you have to, I shouldn't be prescriptive. What it means for me is I have to have a practice, a ritual, or a morning routine that gets me into the right mindset so that I can take action that day and get the results that I want. If I skip the morning routine or I fill it with, social media, LinkedIn, checking in, following up, scrolling, then I'm off to a bad start already and it's 9 o'clock and it's like really hard to be motivated to do the hard work of the day.
Yeah.
So it's about having that routine. That's the thing that makes it possible to keep going.
Yeah. Well, Darren, I mean, this we could title this episode "Most Vulnerable Yet," which honestly, these are great. I mean, the whole goal of the podcast is to
Yeah,
demystify the independent film experience, and that would include the struggles and trials and like frustrations and bad days as well as the good days. If we only talked about the good things,
right.
if we wouldn't demystify anything, we'd probably lose a lot of people saying it's not that that's not true. It doesn't work for me. So thank you for that. And yeah, I mean it's very relatable what you're saying, and I'm sure Michael Bay, if he's listening, he could relate as well.
Michael Bay, if you're listening,
Yeah, we want Darren has a pitch
email
for
it.
you.
Yeah,
No, yeah, it's an up and down thing for sure. And if we're giving updates on our things, so at what point do you? At what point? Not at what point, but how do you? I guess I'll just say it. At what point do you pivot again? Or I mean, you pivoted. You said, okay, hey, for me, for this to work at this pace, I need 10 years to raise 10 million, and that's not going to work.
yeah.
So I'm gonna now pivot again. For me, I have those questions of like, is this the point where I should just go get a job at Arby's or, you know,
Please don't.
right, right. Uh, yeah, that's when my wife gets really excited. Like,
Mm.
wait, like a full time job, maybe.
Yeah,
But no, I'm just kidding. She's very very supportive.
no, I know. For me, I mean, everyone's different, right? We all have different thresholds of what we can do for how long. My threshold is very high. And so,
Yeah.
we'd saved up, and my wife and I had talked about like, hey, I'm going to go into fundraising mode. And that doesn't pay anything, let alone well. And I gave myself 3 months. I said, okay, mid-November to mid-February, right? December, January, February was like, I'm going to just do financing. And I did. And I didn't really I think I made $600 in January
Yeah.
from like selling a couple of, memberships to my website and doing some consulting calls, like very random because I wasn't pushing it at all. And then came mid-February, and that was like, okay, that was about the time where I pivoted and said, I need a different approach because this approach is going to take too long. And in that same breath, I said, I need to go find a consulting gig, someone
Yeah.
that can be a $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 consulting gig, which would take care of 2 or 3 months of my personal income. And that's what I did. And so luckily, like I'm in a position where I have enough of an audience and enough awareness around the consulting that I have done and that I do to say, hey, everybody, I've got one slot. And then emails come in and I can fill it pretty easily. Not everybody has that, but I knew that about myself and my business to where I was like, I wasn't super worried about where is money going to come from. I just
Yeah.
turned the consulting faucet back on, and now it's dripping. So that's what our conversation looked like and where my threshold was. I gave myself 3 months, and I really had high hopes to raise at least the first milestone so I could start greenlighting projects and paying myself as a manager of the fund. We're not there yet. And so that's okay. That just means I needed to pivot and have a different approach and extend my timeline to go, okay, I'm okay with it taking longer. My bills are paid. My wife works full time. We're fine. Like all of that is taken care of. So now it's fitting the fundraising into the time that I now have. Instead of full time, it's 4 hours a day instead of 6 or 7 hours a day. And that's fine. Will it take longer? I don't know. I think the balance of I'm now talking to people who can write 7-figure checks counterbalances the fact that I'm spending half as much time on it. I think it's going to work out just fine.
Yeah. I'm reminded when I first moved to LA, my wife and I, we had saved up and we had about 3 months worth of savings, and that was the timeline we gave ourselves, with 90 days. And I was brand new. I had no contacts in LA and no experience, and just fresh out of film school or BYU film program, and yeah, we just hit the ground every single day. And it wasn't until day 89 that I got my first call of like, "Hey, will you come edit this trailer for us?"
Yeah.
And yeah, it took every bit of energy to just like continue to go and go and go. And those contacts that I made in those 90 days are have become a great support. But it took 90 days of knocking doors and just kind of humbly begging for work, or opportunities, seeking opportunities, to be able to get that one. And
Yeah.
so I rely on that. It sounds like your experience is similar right now.
Yeah.
But it does
How
work
about
out.
you, Garrett? How are things with you've got a whole pitch that you were at NRB putting out in the world. You've been pitching people individually, one-on-one over the last couple months. Like, where are you at? How are things going on your end?
Oh well, I'm not going to share positives right now. That'd be insensitive. No. um,
We
I'll,
do tell the truth on this podcast
we
too,
do
though.
Yeah, that's right. No, things are going well. The pitching continues. I love what I'm doing. So we had a discussion, and let's see. I'm pitching several series and several features, and I looked down because I've got this thing that I took to NRB with me, and it's kind
Yeah.
of been my guiding sheet of like, okay, these are the things. If somebody walked in and said, what do you want to do? Like, what's your project? What can we invest in or fund? This is the list I give them. So I've got a series right now that's called Saints and Outlaws. It's sort of it's a faith based Western, but it's limited audience. But I'm very excited about it. and this to me is one that I think that my goal with this one is to get independent investors uh, and do the full independent release. I mean, it's a series that I'd like to release on its own app and really create um, its own kind of ecosystem of how we make the movie or make the series and release it. We start to build an audience and maintain that audience and feed that audience continually through this series and other projects. So that's obviously not obviously, that is going to take a it's out of the regular pattern through which that I've normally raised money and done films.
Yeah.
So there is a learning curve on that one, but it's getting an incredible amount of attention and interest, and so that's very encouraging. I've got a feature film that I'm pitching. The title is we're not agreed on the title yet, but it's a true story feature film. Another for a broad faith-based audience, um, which will raise money for, raise about $1 million for it, and that's going well. The challenge with some of these projects is I'm not the owner of them, and so that conversation with potential investors is often difficult because you say, "Here's what I've done in the past. This is what I'm going to do." But for this particular project, I can't say this is what I'm going to do. Here's what
Right.
I've done in the past. I'm attached as a director and potential screenwriter, but I'm not the decision maker as far as the producers go. So um, it's a tricky area to raise money for if I don't. You know what I mean? You have to, as a filmmaker, you have to have enough ownership to be able to give a firm response as to how they're going to recoup their money.
Yeah.
And if I'm not, maybe that's a control issue that I have, but if I'm not in control of that process, I have a hard time selling that process.
Yeah. Now, I've often thought that or seen TV as harder to pitch than feature films. Has that been your experience as well? Or what are the kind of differences between pitching to networks who can greenlight a project? Because I'm assuming you're trying to go the network route rather than independently produce the entire thing and then try and sell it or distribute it yourself, like Mark Duplass is doing right now with his TV shows. What are the differences, and what's harder or easier between the two?
So that is the assumption, right? That I'm going to networks and things like that, and that is exactly what I don't want to do.
Hmm.
So yes, it is harder, but I think that there's a window right now. I really feel strongly that there's a window right now for independent TV to be produced, um, including. I mean, let's look at the model of The Chosen, and I know that is looking at, hey, let's try to make lightning in a bottle twice, and you can't do that. But the model is very fascinating of producing um, a low budget short, building an audience around that, both of investors and of crowdfunding, and
Hmm.
then releasing that on their own app, developing their own app to do that. And because of that and the interest that that generated, they were able to sell to CW and then Amazon and Angel and all of this. So they wrote their own ticket. They took an audience. A distributor, I'm starting to learn, and as we talked to a bunch of distributor just wants their job to be easy, right? And typically, the distributor doesn't have an audience. It is the filmmaker or the actor or whomever has the audience. So the distributor's one job is to take it to the audience that you already own. Like, yeah, we'll put this in theaters because Tom Cruise has an audience, or this genre has an audience. Nobody goes to see a we've talked about this before. Very few go because it's a Paramount movie,
Yeah.
right? Or want to go because it's an IP that I like or an audience that I'm a part of. And so I'm getting off track, but with the series, I feel like I have an audience. There is an audience for this particular type of story, and I've got access to them. And if we tell it at the right scale, there's not too much, but not too little, then I think that audience will come and pay attention to the app that we're releasing this on. and then that will be easy to now take it to a network. Say, we have an audience already, and we'll continue to make this movie or this series on our own. If you'd like it, contribute.
Nice. Well, that's exciting to hear. I don't know if you saw, but Mark Duplass is doing a thing with the Independence Project, which is Seed and Spark and Kinema. Seed and Spark handles the crowdfunding side, and Kinema handles the distribution side. But Mark Duplass is releasing a TV show called The Long, Long Night that he had at the Tribeca Film Festival in 2023 and still has not been picked up. So he's doing it independently. And that is a model that's currently being tested in the marketplace. He's currently got a Seed and Spark project that it's raising like $100,000 for P&A. And he already produced the thing. He's willing to lose the production cost in order to prove out the model. And I think every independent filmmaker should be paying really close attention to that, because if he can crack independent TV, which hasn't really happened except for a couple of these lightning in the bottle moments like The Chosen.
Well, yeah, The Chosen. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
That opens up a huge new market for filmmakers. So I'm paying close attention. I hope you're paying close attention. Listener, I hope you will go check it out, because it's very exciting. Like for someone in Mark's position and his experience and clout in the industry to say, screw this, I'm just going to do it myself. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of the mandates that these different streamers and platforms and networks have and why they can't take my thing. And I'm just going to go do it myself. And he has an audience and he has hundreds of thousands of people he can reach for free with his platform. Yeah. So great. Yeah, go do it. And if he can do it, that means others can do it. So it's very exciting.
I think the puzzles have to, the pieces have to be there, right? Yeah. I mean, you do need experience. You need a showrunner. You need a nice, certainly a strong concept for a TV series. Yeah. And then you do need the ability to release it to an audience that wants it. Otherwise, you'll find yourself the same way that a lot of independent filmmakers find themselves. Like, I made this, if I build it, they will come, doesn't exist. So I made this, now who wants it? That's a scary proposition to make, especially for TV series.
Well, that's where he found himself, right? He made something that nobody wanted, which is unfortunate. I think he has an audience that will want it. And so he can bypass the networks and the streamers who are the gatekeepers and say, I'm just going to take it directly to my fan base and see what happens. I think there's two pieces that filmmakers often, myself included, often overlook. One is that it takes a lot bigger audience than we think in order to make these things successful. And two, the project has to be good. And that's a really, it's this weird mix of subjective and objective, right? Because you can get objective feedback that your project is good by going to a festival and winning an award or two and having people in the industry go, yes, this is really good. It's the best of all the things that were here. If there were 150 projects this year and yours was the best, whether it's audience choice or the judges award or the festival award, Anora won the Palme d'Or at Cannes last year. It is a good movie in the context of the people that were watching it and voting on it, right? You and I might have different opinions on it, but again, it's this weird mix of subjective and objective, right? The big film festivals like Cannes and Sundance and Toronto and South by, if you're winning awards, A, if you're getting into those festivals, that's a good sign. B, if you're winning awards at those festivals, really good sign that you made something that is good. If you're struggling to get your thing into festivals, then you kind of have to take stock and go, okay, I made this thing, I'm proud of it, but it's not there yet. So I need to try again, or I need to think about other festivals or other opportunities for this project. And it's really hard for us to do that as creators because we're sensitive creatures. we don't want our feelings hurt. We don't want people to tell us that our stuff isn't good. And so it makes it really hard to keep submitting to festivals when 5 of them have already rejected our project. That sucks. Sure. We don't like it, but that's what it takes. And so hopefully that's helpful. That's how I kind of look at it. We have to be realistic and paying attention to the realities that are at play.
One of the things I think that, that's spot on, Darren. And I think that it's interesting in this process of developing, and what you're doing is pitching or fundraising, and I'm pitching. We're going to be meeting, and a filmmaker is going to meet a variety of different people. I look at my schedule yesterday. I had 3 Zoom calls. One with a filmmaker in LA that has a movie that he's getting ready to take to theaters, right? And so he reached out because he wanted to get our take, my take on, how to release this movie. That may or may not be somebody that is going to help me get this series done. But to be able to have that relationship and establish that relationship, this guy's
Mhm.
made 4 movies and he's an LA based filmmaker and has, 1 million followers or whatever, and is getting ready to release this movie. Um, that'll be a good contact for when we want to build something. The next meeting I had was with a company called Pray.com,
Mm.
which I was unfamiliar with. They had the biggest, fanciest, most decked out, glossiest booth at at NRB, and
Mhm.
so it was a follow up meeting with them. I talked about on a previous episode making those pitches turn into kind of like just handshake meetings and setting up a follow up. So this was
Yeah.
a follow up meeting with Pray.com, um, and they are doing incredible work marketing. Um, they have a list of 5 million emails that they send out daily emails to this.
There you
So
go.
there's an opportunity there for marketing that. Again, and these will be certainly Pray.com is not looking to invest in a movie or to be pitched a movie, but boy, when the time comes and we have our app for this new TV show that we're going to release, you can bet that we're going to be calling Pray.com and saying, "Hey, how, run us through your marketing options for this."
Mhm.
And then the third meeting I had yesterday was with a filmmaker named Greg Whiteley, who's a documentary filmmaker, just incredible award-winning documentary filmmaker. He did his shows right now are on Netflix with what's the show? He did the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders
Mm.
documentary and
Yeah.
a lot of the high school football documentaries and things like that. Just incredible filmmaker. And we chatted at length about a project that we're looking at doing together that isn't one of these on this list.
Yeah.
But so I think it's important to know, like, if we're saying, oh, what does the day to day look like as a filmmaker? It, uh, it's very, very unpredictable. But the day is going to happen, and like you say, you have to get up and get in your routine and just face the day and attack the day like something's going to happen. It's this
Yeah.
ridiculous level of optimism that that you have to kind of balance and counterbalance everything that's not happening, so that when the time does come and when all those pieces come together, you're ready to make your next project.
Exactly. The thing I always tell myself is no one's going to do it for me. There's no one else that's going to go and raise a fund and then give it to me. There's no one else that's going to raise money and call me and say, "Hey, I want to give you all this money so you can produce this movie that's your dream project." Like that is not going to happen, at least in my mind. And so, if I want the thing to exist, I'm going to have to go do it. What's your? You have a thing on your fridge in your kitchen. If it's meant to be, it's up to me, or something
If it
like
is
that,
to
right?
be, it is up to me. Yeah,
There you
10,
go.
ten
Just
two-letter
simply words.
words.
10 two-letter words.
It's just, yeah, 10 words that are 2 letters. If it is to be, it is up to me. And that has
Wow.
been a little bit of a mantra of
Yeah.
saying, yeah, yeah. And that can be applicable to any situation or scenario. And it's an optimistic look. It's not a cynical look. You say, look, I'm in control. Like, I get to be in control. If this is going to happen, um, I get to be the one to make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's great because I trust me. I trust me to make it happen.
I know what I'm capable of. So sometimes I
Yeah,
even
I
surprise
made it
myself.
happen before. Let's do it. Um,
Awesome. I think that's
yeah,
a good place to leave it. It's a good update. I like these episodes where we get to be a little vulnerable, as people say, and talk about the realities of what we're doing. I think those are the most helpful episodes where people go, "Oh, it is hard. Okay, that makes it easier for me to then keep doing the hard thing." So yeah, keep going, everybody. Email us questions if you got them because we love answering them. We haven't had a question in a while. We should do a Q&A episode and put out a feeler for everybody. Send in your
where can we
question.
email questions? I love that idea. We'll put our email address in the show notes, but it's what is it?
Anyway,
No, I think it's it's podcast, right? Go to our podcast and you can see
podcast at 3coinpro.com. Or yeah, just go to 3coinpro.com/podcast. You can put questions in right there. It's awesome. So let's
it.
do a Q&A
Yeah,
episode coming up soon.
I like it, and we do have some guests lined up for next week and the coming weeks.
Yeah.
Some incredible filmmakers who are going to give us some good insights on their making their independent films. Hey, real quick shout out to the box office. Rule Breakers from Angel Studios released opening weekend, March 7th, and did 1.5 million at the box office. So
Cool.
congratulations to them.
Were they top
On a good
10? Did they
weekend.
make top 10 with that, or was
They
it a
did.
high?
They broke it. They were number 9 of the
Nice.
weekend. So
Yeah.
way to go.
Amazing. All right, man. Well, it's a good convo. I'm excited for this episode to go out. Hopefully, it helps a couple of filmmakers that are listening to the show. And thanks, everybody. See you in the
Okay,
next
hang in
one.
there. You sure you're okay? You'll be with us next week.
Oh, yeah. I'm good.
Don't leave the industry yet, Darren. It gets better.
No problem. No problem at all.
Okay, man.
All right, man. See you.
Yeah.